Hi! So today I have a special treat for you because I brought along my husband to talk to you guys about movement and exercise, his specialty. He has a This is Andy.
Hello.
Twellman, of course. He has a master's in exercise physiology, and we own a gym in downtown Austin where he specializes in functional training and working with people who have had injuries and need specialized training to help them recover and just live optimally. So I'm excited to talk with him about exercise because he is literally the smartest guy I know. So this will be really fun. I really built you up.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll try not to.
Don't mess things up. No, I'm just kidding. So tell me and us how you got into exercise and why it's so important to you.
I've always been fascinated with how the body adapts and reacts, and when you're young and when you're first getting into it, your body really adapts quickly. And so, I loved it as a kid,
like sports or working out?
Just working out in general, I was a skinny kid, no muscle, and, made me a little self-conscious. So working out was like that, one of the first things where you get a really clear output for the input that you put into it. Mm-hmm. And so that was always really interesting to me. And so over time, I grew more interested in it. And then I went off to school and was like, made sense. It's like, I like learning about this stuff. So went to school for it, and the rest was history. Mm-hmm.
Well, and so you've been training people for years, like over a decade. How many years now?
16 years.
16 years. So what do you feel like people really struggle with when they are starting exercise programs?
I think not knowing what to do is the biggest thing. I mean, it's what people always talk about when they come in to see us for the first time. Everybody has seen different exercise programs, but figuring out exactly what to do and what the best thing to do is hard. It's even hard for me. I'll go in a lot of times.
It's hard for me.
I have a whole library of exercises and things that I've done in the past, and I still sometimes have a hard time when it's coming up for my own workout that day, just figuring out exactly what to do. I do it all day for other people, but it's hard for yourself. So that's the most common thing, is people just not knowing what to do. And so we've always seen ourselves in that kind of facilitator role where, people come in and they want help, and we just kind of guide them towards the things that they need to work on and want to work on.
Well, and so what about the people who don't have trainers? What are good resources? How do they get started? Do they just go out and start running, or do you think like joining a gym? Like what is the best way for people to get started?
I don't know that there's one answer to that. The biggest thing is just to get started. I don't know that there's any.
When you say get started, what do you mean by that?
Well, doing something is better than doing nothing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of information out there on the internet, but a lot of it is not very good information. It's a pretty low bar to. It's like any other field. It doesn't really take anything to put something up on the internet, whether or not it's true or is the best course of action. There's no guarantees that what you're reading is going to be a good plan for you. And so, but that being said, there are good resources out there. It's just a matter of, I think you almost have to evaluate them just with your gut. Does this make sense? And does this seem like something I can do? And you can find those things out there. But if it seems like it's too much, or if it seems wrong, or like a bad
heavy
fit,
or
if it seems like a bad fit for what you want to do, or just doesn't seem reasonable, it's probably not. I still, obviously I'm biased, but I still think the best thing that you can do is go to somebody that is a professional that knows what they're doing and that really cares. you know, and listens to you when you tell them what you want. I think that's the best thing you can do. But yeah, just because, you know, there, like I said, there's so many different things out there. But the most important thing is taking those steps to do
just
something.
start. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and something I always tell my clients is that just try a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And because the exercise the best exercise is one that you'll do.
Right,
and so whether,
Right.
and so whether it is starting out just walking 3 times a day and then maybe picking it up and doing some running, or trying a Zumba class or whatever, and really starting where you are,
Right.
and then slowly building it up. Because
Right.
I see so many people, and you probably see this too, try to go from not working out at all to trying to do
Right.
like every day, and then they get burnout. And what are other issues
Well,
that you
just
see
to
from,
kind of add to that, one of the things, I mean, one of the things we know about exercise is it is like the world's greatest drug. It literally, I mean, every malady that you can imagine, from arthritis to autism to diabetes, everything benefits from exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they've got plenty of research to show that, and the minimum guidelines aren't that much. I mean, I think what they say right now is 150 minutes of moderate activity a week
Mm-hmm.
is a great start. Is enough to
How
make
many
a
is that
huge
per
difference. It's 5 days of 30 minutes.
Okay,
So
right.
it's not an unreasonable amount. And just doing something is far better than doing nothing. And it actually helps mediate a lot of symptoms of a lot of these diseases.
Mm-hmm.
The body was made to move. So, I mean, we say that with almost everything that we deal with, from people with bad knees. Now, you know, you want to stay away from aggravating movement, but movement in general is one of the best things that you can do if you have a sore knee, if you have a bad back. Finding ways to move more
Mm-hmm.
without aggravating whatever it is that's in pain is one of the best things that you can do. So having, you know, just kind of knowing that, I mean, I think it's pretty empowering that it's like you have a lot of control over your symptoms.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that, you know, in a lot of these cases, exercise performs better than a lot of the drugs that they'll prescribe. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of your specialty, is really helping people rehabilitate after having some type of
right, and just go on back
injury.
to living life. I mean, we have a lot
Right.
of people that have a history of things. I mean, I'm one of them. You're one of them. You know, we all have a history of things that have happened and joints that bother us and things like that. And so, rather than saying I can't do this because of my knee, or I can't do this because of my back, we like to kind of try to flip the script and make it more of a story of I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And a lot of times when you start doing a lot of these other things, and having somebody, obviously having a strategy behind how you go about doing these other things is important. But a lot of times you find that then you go back and some of the things that you thought you couldn't do before, you actually can do.
Yeah.
Because of the movement and the strength that you've built has allowed what once was a problem to not be as much of a problem. We talk about it in terms of it's a buffer. You're giving yourself a buffer to where as you get stronger, you can tolerate more without discomfort. And so when you build your buffer up, and there's a lot of things that affect your buffer, everything from strength to flexibility to sleep to proper nutrition, all these things help you be more resilient and less likely to suffer from pain, less likely to get sick, things like this. And it's when you don't take care of your body, you don't,
absolutely.
you don't exercise, you don't eat well, you don't sleep enough. Those are the times when your buffer starts to wear away. So you have a lot of ways to maintain that buffer. And exercise is a huge lever, obviously one of many levers, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a
I
big
love
one.
that way at looking at exercise is just a way to make you more optimal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't, you know, one of the pitfalls, one of the things that you see sometimes is people that train too hard or train all the time at really high intensities. that will start to wear on your reserve. There's a fine line between too much intensity and just the right amount of intensity. It's like anything in life, it's the Goldilocks principle that
right.
guides everything. It's like you can definitely get into the mindset that it has to be hard, it has to be painful, and it's not true. It doesn't have to be. Intensity is, it's a key element. You don't want to. So the other end of the coin would be, people that go in and do the same thing every day. One of the things when we talk about the body and how it adapts to exercise is it adapts to whatever it is you're doing. So if you go in and you do the same workout every time for 3 months, 6 months, there's a lot of people that go in and they get on the elliptical and they do 30 minutes on the elliptical and they do it at the same speed every time. Well, over time your body adapts to that.
The body's so efficient.
It builds, it builds enough mitochondria to handle that load. It builds enough, tissue in your legs and your arms, connective tissue and muscle to handle that workload. But when that workload is the same, there's no stress. There's nothing there's no signals that are telling your body, hey, we have to build a little bit stronger because it's not a strong enough stimulus.
So you say stress. There's lots of talk out there about how stress is bad, but you're talking about stress as being a good thing.
Yeah. Well, again, the Goldilocks principle of the right amount of stress is kind of the key. So there has to be stress. There has to be intensity. You have to push beyond what you're capable of doing currently, but you don't have to do it all the time. And it's important to balance that stress and that intensity with recovery. So there's a lot of ways that you can recover, whether it's meditation, yoga, there's all kinds of things that help kind of reset, your parasympathetic nervous system when you're doing a lot of high sympathetic drive activities, high intensity exercise, things like that, which are important because, again, you have to get out of your comfort zone.
Is kind of the fight or flight,
right,
and parasympathetic is the relax and digest type of thing. And so our body naturally goes between those two things, and we need both of them you need stress to build muscle, become stronger, but you also need
the stress is it's the what breaks things down, but it's the stimulus that tells you to build whatever the structures involved are stronger. One of the quotes that I learned last year in a seminar that I went to that I loved it because it just rang true when I first heard it, is that force is the language of cells. And so your body's cells respond to force in a way that allows them to remodel. So along the lines of force. So if you always press this way, your body will realign its connective tissue fibers along those lines of force. And it won't do it in the other directions if you're not doing them. So it's the same principle with muscles rebuilding and connective tissue rebuilding as it is with every other facet of how the body adapts to the things that you do. It adapts to whatever it is you're doing or not doing. So if you're not doing things, you are actively getting... Your body's not going to maintain muscle mass if you're not doing things that require
because it's
you to have muscle mass.
Expensive property.
It's expensive tissue. So it's expensive tissue to maintain. If it's not necessary, your body will get rid of it. Just like it will, if your body sees that it's being used and it's chronically being overstressed, it will want to build it back more.
So I actually have a question. You mentioned earlier about intensity, and a lot of people, women, want to lose weight, lose fat mass. And the best way I've heard to lose fat mass is to have a high proportion of your exercise being high intensity. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that having the high intensity portion of your workout is really important, but I think that it's easy to get carried away down that road and do too much high intensity.
Okay.
I think 2 to 3 for most people, 2 to 3 high intensity
days per week.
Yeah, and defining high intensity is something that could be a little bit tricky. It really is a kind of a sliding scale that's constantly changing too. One way to measure it is by heart rate. Another way, you can do it with a rating of perceived exertion. There's a number of ways that you can do it, but that's where it helps to have somebody that kind of knows and can monitor what you're doing. But yeah, it's easy to get carried away with high intensity, but the diet and the nutrition part of it, and the sleep and recovery and all those things are a huge part of it too. I don't think that, in terms of fat loss, I don't think that if you're only paying attention to the exercise, that there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, you
Obviously,
definitely need lots of
it's a full
nutrition.
commitment.
Yeah.
It's a full-time commitment on all fronts, and the high intensity
Now, when you
exercise
say
is a big part
full-time
of it.
commitment, what do you mean?
I think that it takes. I mean, you can't let any of those pieces, exercise, recovery,
right.
nutrition,
Yeah,
slip.
you can't
You have to really pay attention to all of them.
Be super good at nutrition and
'Cause
work
one of
out
the-
and then never sleep.
Because one of the things that I think a lot of people fall into is they tend to overestimate how many calories they burn when they train, and they tend to underestimate how much they eat. And so it's easy, and when you train hard, it drives hunger, and so that's another thing that you always have to be conscious of, because you've trained, and it's easy to give yourself that psychological reward too. Hey, I worked out really hard.
Well, and I find,
and again, there's a lot. It's all fronts.
Well, and I find that is particularly a problem when people are first starting to change their diet and change their exercise, because when you first start working out, it feels really hard because everything is new.
Right.
And as adults, like we are just not used to doing new things. And so you have to build up your connective tissue, your muscle mass, your stamina. And so you feel like you're working super, super hard, but you're really not very efficient. And so your body doesn't really burn as many calories as, say, person who has been doing it for 5 months. And so the more you work out, right, the more efficient your body becomes. So not really focusing on the calories I'm burning or this, just focusing on the action of working out 5 times a day for 50, or 5 times a week, not a day, for 50.
Good. That might be a little on the too much side.
You have to do lots of active recoveries.
I thought I was committed. Man.
Yeah. So, what are a few main takeaways for people who are both new exercisers and then also people who have been doing it and maybe have hit a plateau of either boredom or they keep hurting their back or whatever? I mean, like, that's a pretty broad question. Sorry, I'll rephrase the question. So
yeah, I can just start. I mean, I can
okay,
I can go a million different directions. But if you want to keep me on track, it's probably a good idea to give me a real pointed question.
Okay,
because I can ramble.
All right, here let me do this. Okay, so what are some main points that you can give both new exercisers and then maybe also people who have hit a plateau, either in their weight loss or just not really feeling it anymore?
New exercisers, I think that, in terms of like a breakdown of how you do your, what you do over the course of the week, I think that, having some kind of component of strength training is really important. It's, of all the things that have been researched, it's been researched a lot. That and aerobic training have been researched a lot. And we know that both of them have significant impacts, positive impacts. And on top of that, you get, you see results really quickly, especially when you're new.
For weight training or aerobic, or combining them together?
Well, both will result in both capacities getting better. Okay. Regardless of whether you're doing them separately or together. I mean, in most cases you would recommend people do both.
Okay.
Out of those, out of the workouts that they do, you probably want to strength train at least a couple days a week. You know, there's all kinds of research out there on what the best number of sets and reps is. And, you know, honestly, starting is the most important thing, and any of the protocols will show benefits, especially in the beginner. And that's the great thing. I mean, that's the fun thing about getting started, is that you improve incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
So having a balance of strength training, aerobic training, and then some. I always think that it's important to do movement training, because our ability to move well in space.
Movement training, what do you mean by that?
Well, I would call it a combination of flexibility training. You know, we always talk about it in terms of we want to mobilize the body, mobilize the hips, stretch and move the hips.
So like
increase
yoga,
your range of motion. Yoga, stretching, things like that. And then following it up, yoga does a good job because you not only stretch, but you also have to control your body through that range of motion. You don't want to just increase range of motion by itself. You want to increase range of motion and get stronger throughout that range of motion. So that would be kind of my third arm of a basic kind of beginner training program, is some combination of flexibility and stability training throughout those ranges of motion, in addition to your basic strength program and your basic aerobic program.
Okay.
Now with the more advanced person who's kind of gone through this whole process and has seen themselves get stronger, seen themselves get more fit, but kind of falls into a rut, which happens all the time. You know, there's a number of ways to get unstuck.
Unrutted.
Yeah, to get out of a rut. And, you know, it's hard to say what the best one is for any one person, but, you know, I think any time that, for me, it's having some sort of objective. You know, you set a race, a goal to do something in a race, or you want to be able to achieve some sort of feat, like you want to be able to deadlift 300 pounds, or you want to be able to do a pull-up. You know, and you can kind of tailor your program towards achieving something, or maybe it's running a 5K. So I think setting an objective is one way. Going somewhere different, doing your training somewhere different sometimes helps. You know, if you always go to the same place, now if you go to Driven, you should keep going to Driven.
I was wondering if you.
And we'll just change your workout. But if, you know, I mean, sometimes just a change of scenery is all you need. You get into your comfort zone where you go over and you get on the elliptical and you do the elliptical, and it's the same every time.
Yeah.
Or you go do the class where you kind of lift a bunch of weights and it's the same class more or less every time.
Yeah.
It's like getting out of that and just doing something different.
Yeah. Trying new things, and there are so many fun things to do now.
Right.
Like there's bar, there's rowing, there's running, tennis, basketball. I mean, there's just so many things to do.
Trying different things is a big one. I think in having a community, or finding a community, or other people that are doing things, I think. And it works for some people, doesn't work for others. A lot of people, I mean, they don't really want to work out with other people.
Yeah.
We get a lot of that because we see a lot of one-on-one training. But even with our one-on-ones, a lot of times, even if they don't participate, a lot of times they're kind of motivated by seeing some of the other friendly competitions and challenges that everybody's doing, you know, and they can kind of participate. Yeah. You know, so we try to do it semi-regularly, where there's just some sort of friendly competition. Yeah, friendly competition. Some sort of social aspect to it.
Accountability. And that's a lot of what you and trainers are for their clients, is just having that layer of accountability. Right. And that is one of, I think, the most important things about creating a group around you that will that is on your same level in whatever goal you want, is that it just adds a layer of accountability and also inspiration. Do this, try this. Hey, I love this class, or whatever. It just adds so much. Yeah. So thank you for talking to me today. I learned so much. I hope you guys did too. And get out there. Like he said, just get started. It doesn't matter where you start, just start and you will get to your goal if you just take those steps. So get out there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.